She nonetheless was one of the most derelict out of all of us. So you are wayward when there's no reason for you to be. You've got love from home. Like everybody else was struggling except they used to go every year got Christmas. Cape Town, traveling all over the show. Like they had the life. Do you understand? Like, you know, when you raised handle, it was nice where you came from. The rest of us, we don't know what it's. We did not know what an airplane was like, what the inside of an airplane looked like, until we worked in corporate ourselves and took ourselves on airplanes. But they were getting put on airplanes by their parents. Since that was what was going on over there. And then you still go derelict, wayward. Since you decide even though you come from a household like that. So I can't even accuse the parents of dropping the ball. No, that chick was the one that made a decision for wickedness. The soul that sins shall die. Decision. Do you understand? To just disregard all of the luxury that she grew up in. She was loved by everybody, raised by a community, popular. There was no reason for her to go so wayward. She would have gone pretty okay. She would have done pretty okay in life for herself if she had just been honest. But you see, the thing about my cousin is she was so irresponsible that she kept on dropping out of jobs, like dropping out of school. So even if she tried to study, she probably wouldn't have finished. She kept on messing up at work, not pitching, like not going in Monday. The company, the jobs where she worked, she ended up leaving, quitting before they, like, you know, when you quit a job just before they fire you. That's how she was. So her career would have been a lot farther than where under heaven it is that it was by the time she messed up with my future, if she had not had to quit so many jobs before they fired her that she had to start from scratch each new time. She had to start. She was just irresponsible. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. And then you go and grab somebody that worked like a dog just to get anywhere at all. And then you put them at home. You put them in a shack at the back of her mother's house. Do you understand? And then you say, whoops, I guess, when this woman was so hardworking, with such a hard knocks work ethic, that there was a time when MTN nearly dissolved my leave days because I never went on leave. I never took leave. They told me, if you don't take leave, your leave days are going to expire. They're going to expire and we're going to start you again from scratch and you're going to cry. So, leave. There was a time when I took leave for like a whole month, because my leave days would have expired if I did not do that. That's what under heaven it is that I was. So, umuntu onjalo, uhlala samsebenzini to a point where the company tells her, "Hambu uyohlala endlini for a month." Yeah. I didn't even go anywhere or do anything during that leave because it was just thrown on me. It just literally jumped on me like a thief in the night. So I was literally just at home watching TV all day, like paging through paging through magazines. That's what I was doing for like an entire month. I did not plan that leave. So I didn't go on holiday. I did not enjoy it with anybody. I just sat at home. Otherwise I was going to lose my days. I would then go to the mall, shop, whatever. Because I was always komsebenzing. Where versus somebody that every so often has their salary deducted from because she's out of her leave days now. Like, she's out of sick leave. She's always just absent. That was the way that my cousin was in the beginning of her career. So umuntu onjalo, that like proper, I bet the dad, when she was busy with all of her responsibility, he was like, one day when one day you're gonna find yourself without a job. So when you're dealing with these two kids, one is an obvious star and she is running for her future, gunning for it, and then the one is busy messing up, putting holes, perforations in her future. Yeah, and then the tables just turn like that overnight with no explanation. The one that is a star just falls on the floor, breaking teeth and everything, skulls cracking, and is unable, strangely, despite all of this wealth of experience, education and responsibility, unable to get a job. While the one that was with perforations in her bucket, like being regressed, taking salary cuts just so she can have a job at all, that one then all of a sudden skyrockets at the exact same time. That's the date that my uncle was supposed to be like, I see it for what it is. And then I don't understand witchcraft. I don't understand Jesus. I'm an unspiritual man. I'm just going through life, merely existing as a blob. I am not a spiritual being. But one thing I know is that I don't want to mess with whatever my daughter's messing with. I don't want to mess with it because unkile moto ofelletseng kaofela o sebetsang ka thata a mo tshwatla in one sitting ke shebile. I saw it happen. I saw it in my eyes. I saw this girl literally take Karabo from the sky where she was at and crush her on the floor. Ke bone ka matlho aka. So I get tlhaloganye memoya, mara all I know is ntho e ngwana ka e entseng, I don't condone it. He started out first saying he does not condone what she is doing, but guess what? The mother, you know, the Bible says that an immoral woman or a wicked woman is like rottenness in the bones of a man. Is rottenness. Her feet go down to death. No man comes out from her. Hi, Bunny, you don't make the right decision with a wife, men. Later on, even when you have got children, do you understand? This Jezebel wife of yours, uzotata, indoda, that is under normal circumstances rational, and make him make an evil choice. Make him make an evil decision just for the sake of protecting our children. Mewadeng, obo norungwana wa lawyer like no man's business. And the dad was trying to stand with me and intervene appropriately until the mother was like, Blomanyan, this is our child. We gotta make a decision. Khalali wayward. And now she looks like she is rising. We cannot stand with somebody else's children. So here it is that we're dealing with a bit of a Jezebel slash Ahab story, where Jezebel is convincing Ahab to steal Naboth's vineyard. Jezebel is convincing Ahab to steal Naboth's vineyard, and after to steal Naboth's vineyard and then kill Naboth. And upon stealing Naboth's vineyard and then killing Naboth, or killing Naboth and then stealing his vineyard, ooh-wee, there's gonna be a power cut. And if there's a power cut, I cannot continue to talk over here. Like, I really seriously have no clue what to do. There's gonna be a power cut because this thing, 1 minute, alright, the power's gonna die, and when it dies, my phone, when it's not charging, it just switches off. So I don't know how long I have to tell the story. Apparently there has not been any power all day long, and now the thing is beeping. And as in, I'm in a momentum. Let me try and talk and get this off my chest as quickly as I can before the power dies. My prayer is that at least my second part of this video will go out. So many distractions. Like, I get guys. I'm going to have to finish this message Kausan if the electricity dies, because my phone cannot operate without power. My phone cannot operate without electricity. It's not like I can continue to speak in the dark. Anyway, whatever. I was talking about my uncle and how it is that he made a decision to stand. Oh yes, Naboth's vineyard. His wife was like Jezebel. His wife was like Jezebel. Yes, this thing, the power's gonna go off like any minute now. Inside what thing in Jezebel, and Jezebel managed to convince Naboth. Do you understand? To basically, not Naboth, to manage to convince Ahab to kill Naboth for the vineyard. Jezebel managed to kill Naboth for the vineyard. Managed to convince her husband to kill Naboth for the vineyard, and upon convincing him to do that, I really pray that my as in the situation in the young Faraza is what, guys, it fraz me like no man's business. Ahab ended up guilty. Ahab was mourning over the crimes he committed in that regard. He was in pain, he was sorrowful, and God gave him mercy for the contrite spirit that he had. But bottom line is, it displayed just what a destructive woman can do in the life of a man. When a woman has no moral compass, when she's running with whatever under heaven it is that are her basic instincts, when she is not guarded by the Holy Spirit, an entire legacy. She can cause a man to literally forfeit an entire inheritance. And that's exactly what my aunt made my uncle do. He wanted to do better. Marongetse Jezebel. So, like, when I keep saying, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, this really truly goes both ways. I'm a daughter, and they're settling with Njefela slay queens all over the show, and you go and you marry some wicked woman. This chick will thoroughly, at the end of the day, also cause you to make wrong decisions concerning your children. Wrong decisions concerning your children. Just an evil woman that's going to drive a man into the pit. And now, because of my aunt's decision, my uncle is about to face a severity of judgment. Do you understand? Because he listened to two evil women. Jezebel, umntana khona, uJezebel, umama khona. Jezebel ki mme wa teng, Jezebel ki oswa teng. Jezebel ki cousin, Jezebel ki mme wa teng. Both these people are evil. The woman and her child are both little monsters, and they both ran a man into the pit. And now I'm busy getting dreams where my uncle is trying to patchwork his little Jezebelian female household. He's trying to patchwork what these two women did to his legacy. What they did to his legacy, never mind as a dad and a father to them, but as the male mediator, the patriarchy of this entire family. One thing glitching on me, like, it mustn't glitch, man. Come on. Play. I don't know why this thing was glitching, twitching. Anyway, okay, at least I was able to get my second part out. I'm only left with one part. Mara, I'm only gonna be, I mean, if there was no power since 12 in the afternoon, it's probably not gonna come back all night long. That's like it, we're in trouble. It's okay, we'll deal. I mean, I've been so miserable today, but I'm feeling better now that I'm talking. But just listening to this beeping thing outside, we're gonna be encountered and do it through a power cut any minute now. Like, it's literally inevitable. Yeah, and now the rest of us are just going to have to be subjugated to the tyranny of South African insanity. That's what's good. No, guys, yes, then bad girls, bad women, make no mistake. Banale power, they've got influence over men. Women, period, have got influence over men. But when the woman is great, she is a crown of glory on his head. However, when she's evil, rottenness in the bones of a man. So my uncle has been basically put on slippery paths. Her feet go down to death. No man comes out from there. First by his wife, and then by a daughter that took after the wife. You transfer generational curses of such nefariousness, diabolicalism. Like, when you get off, when you survive as a woman off the backs of other people, there's no way that you're gonna raise a daughter to be any different. No way you're gonna raise a daughter to be any different. When I was dating my ex-boyfriend, there was this one friend of his that had a witch girlfriend. And that chick was heavy into sorcery and a busy boyfriend that thing because the mother was like that. She was the kind of woman to manipulate men, seduce the living daylights out of them and use them for everything. And when she started to get old, she then started to train her daughter as to how to take care of not only herself but also her. Like, as in train her daughter to take care of herself and also her mother. And she was like, my daughter, if the two of us are gonna survive, this is how you need to be. She taught her daughter to manipulate men with spurts. And so then she met my ex-boyfriend's friend and then made a decision with like a puppet on a string. Evil women, yeah, men, you salivate after them. You love them. You love how, what is this word that I'm looking for? Savage they are. It's a turn on for them to be bad girls, right? It's a turn on. Yeah, until they make your daughters just as diabolical, until they make your daughters nefarious. Do you want your daughter to be like your wife? Like, if at all you're with this baddie woman, you're with this like hard knock vixen of a girl, of a woman, would you want a girl child from her womb to be like her? The things that drew you to her. Men are hypocrites that way. You want little sweet Guyana girls staying virgins until marriage, and you also want no one to hurt your little sisters, but then you insist upon making women savages or being with savage women or downplaying the value of good girls in the climate of bad ones. Yeah, until it hits home, where it is that now daddy's little girl is looking like vixen mom. And manja, when you're a vixen at an old age, suga, and now it looks super ugly. You just look like a Lever Hexie. You just look like an old hag. Do you understand? Yeah, well, my aunt is not being eaten up in any kind of way by what under heaven is going on. But guess who it's eating? Naboth, Ahab. It's eating Ahab. His Jezebel wife made him make a decision to steal Naboth's vineyard. And now my uncle is all bereft. Never mind bereft, but he is experimental. He's experimental with how to deal with me. And that's the thing in Borang. Like, I'm already dealing with so much. I am already dealing with so many things, so many random strangers out here literally trying to marry me gankane. Yeah, there is this like anomalous beast in the US of A that is a war I am currently engaged in, trying to fight off all of his curses. And then there's random cyber stalkers from all over this South Africa that I used to know that are still busy with witchcraft on me. And then there's this like cousin. There's so many wars that I am fighting. I cannot afford to deal with this one over and above it too. The helping endeavors. What in the world is that? The help, man, why is my phone doing this? It shouldn't be doing this. They are helping the endeavors along of evil people to marry me off to a wicked man, unawares to themselves already the spiritual war that I'm going through in that regard. I'm already going through a lot. I am already fighting a lot. Do you understand what I'm saying? I am at war with literally too much. Too much. I'm at war. And here it is that I've got family that is trying to help evil men marry me. Yes, this nonsense there is a halang. I want to be able to finish this message before the power gets cut, because it's almost inevitable that that's going to happen. the dream that I was speaking about was basically a description of a person trying to fix a gargoyle. My cousin has become a conduit for demonic spirits. She is a menace and a monster. She is a fraction of what she used to be. There is no longer anything left over there. She's just a whole devil walking around. However, she has been perched on her dad's pillars. They imagine they're wealthy with knowledge and understanding because they have walked in an ill-gotten gain, that they feel as if though they get to be the stars in this whole ecosystem above everybody else. So just like Jake Sully's mom saying that it is hard to fill a cup that is already full, they are full with sorcery, full of fake knowledge, esoteric understanding, that this is how you get ahead in life and this is the way that it is. But you see, there is something that my uncle cannot eradicate in his endeavors to be the star of all of his siblings and have children that are doing the best out of all of his siblings. Something he can't overcome is a conscience. Something that he can't overcome is the observation of a travesty. Something he cannot overcome is the fact that a woman is dying. An innocent child, to him it's like a child, is passing away because he is standing with what he also comprehends is a nefarious daughter. She is evil. Kisadane, I told you. My cousin is so evil that her sister fears her. Her sister fears her. They know she is involved in some pretty satanic stuff. That's what's good. And so when you've got somebody that's a little bit of she's got black eyes. Do you understand? She is manifesting some demon. Abuwa. Voice deep. Idig. She is obviously unhinged. When you are trying to protect somebody like that, who has been taken over by something ominous, what's going to happen on that day is that you're going to feel bad for the victims of this beast that you have produced. But you're going to feel obligated to continue to protect the beast. And you're also going to feel as if though if this beast breaks apart, so too will your entire fortune. In my analogy with the gargoyle and a little old lady that was just singing some gospel song as she was walking past some wealthy house, I was displaying the ignorance that I was walking in. And when initially I was talking about the ignorance I was walking in. Initially, when I first started, I'm so disheartened by whatever's happening with my phone and the fact that the electricity is running out. So I'm really just trying to get through these points quickly so I don't have to do this tomorrow or whatever, finish this work tomorrow because of my issues with my phone. Initially, when the first spells that this woman cast on me, I didn't know. I was in ignorance. Do you understand? Thankfully, however, I'd gotten born again. I'd gotten saved. At around the same time that I was getting saved, she was busy getting involved in some pretty dark stuff. So it would be basically the equivalent of me walking outside of their wealthy family's household. And by wealth, I don't even mean material wealth. People, when they happen upon occult knowledge or occult understanding, they imagine that they have merged with wealth. They think that they've made money. They think they've arrived. Do you understand what I'm saying? They think that they found a solution to the riches of this world. And so the wealthy man with the gargoyle that he buys at Builder's Warehouse is like my uncle. He knew that his daughter was involved in some dark things. Even though in and of himself he wasn't a spiritual man at all. He was irreligious. There was nothing going on. He was just going through life. That's what's good. His wife, however, was spiritual in an evil capacity. This girl of his decided to turn to darkness, brought her sister into it, caused the sister to fear her due to how deeply involved in the darkness she was. But at the same time that the whole family was busy getting dunked like a cookie in some chocolate, in the occult, in the flames of hell, I was busy getting saved. So ignorantly, I was praying. Ignorantly, I was fasting. Ignorantly, I was just sending praises up to heaven. And so all the spells of my cousin, the things that she had initially tried to do to me, they all just failed. The first thing she tried to do to me was a human sacrifice. I had a dream of her one time. I woke up. I was sleeping in my grandmother's bedroom, which is now today her parents' bedroom. And I woke up, and when I opened my eyes, she was on me with a knife, about to drive it into my throat. About to drive a knife into my throat. And I stopped her, and the two of us wrestled with this knife until eventually she gave up, rolled over the bed. I threw her over the bed and she gave up and left. Immediately afterwards, I went and told her dad in my dream and my mom that your daughter and your niece just tried to kill me, and both of them ignored me. And that's exactly what happened in waking life. I have shouted on the rooftops about this chick's evil. I have spoken about her sabotage of me, and her whole family and mine have ignored me. and left her to look really successful while being rewarded for evil, and me just gather dust. So not only did I sound the warning on the rooftops in the very beginning, time has displayed that what I said was true, and the strange, creepy, eerie ways of my particular life are also speaking volumes. And these people are they're not in denial. They know what has happened, but they would much rather basically keep this elephant in the room. So essentially, this conduit for satanic spirits, that would be a gargoyle, that is my cousin, has been perched outside of her parents' house for years. And it was me that turned to Christ, and so basically was able to survive her darkness that caused the gargoyle to shatter, to fall on the ground. And unbeknownst to myself, and like I said, creation groans to see the sons of God revealed. Creation groans to see the sons of God revealed. So this here that's happening between me and my cousin is a travesty, because I am nowhere in a way that does not make sense, and she is somewhere also in a way that does not make sense. It is clear, it is obvious that she is involved in some pretty diabolical stuff, and that she has done something horrible to me. It's just obvious. Ntho e entseng is so extreme that, like I said, batho ba ko ha bona ba motshaba. Ntho e nkentseng yona ya tshosa. And she's been trying to finish me off. I've been getting dreams on a loop about her in this particular regard. She wants to finish me off so as to avoid the embarrassment that I am from continuing to flourish and spread itself thin in these streets. Given that I'm not dying, I'm a child of God. The structure in her dad's household is falling apart. I told you recently this past weekend, a whole satanic ritual, some black event, like an event among black people with ancestral worship, where they go and they do necromancy, they speak to the dead in order to gain good tidings, favor, basically musebetsi. Okay, I don't even, like, I've already described it in another video. I described it in another video. And after musebetsi one thing, I didn't go. It happened this past Saturday. It is now Monday, and I just got a dream. This morning I woke up out of a dream where my uncle, upon making, I guess, the observation that I am boycotting all of their rubbish, and I will not also partake in fruitless deeds of darkness like those rituals that they do. My absence there has given my uncle a whole idea. Do you understand? To deal with me, handle me for what it is that I am, because I am obviously very embarrassing. Like, this chick has always been a little drunk. She has always been a derelict. She's always cut corners. Like, it's who she's always been. She has never been responsible, even in the slightest. And so you ought to have foreseen reasonably that she would ultimately do something like this. This thing, like, my uncle was supposed to, all those years ago, when this thing was starting out, be like, I'm sorry, daughter, we tried. And you still messed up. And now here it is that Karabo uyakhala. And she's never been the kind of jefela wa go hela the accusations. She's serious. She is, what is this? On the straight and narrow. She's always been on the straight and narrow. And you guys are at loggerheads with each other when she is living a life above reproach. Fine, whatever. Her religion, she looks like she belongs to a cult. She's always in church, blah blah. But that's just the thing about Karabo. She's always been that thing. She's always been the one that's not doing whatever you're doing. So leho khetawa of Jesu is ever more evidentiary of tabayore hasidi type in debauchery for the rest of her life. She's dogmatic, fine. Maranto mo accusing of yona ga se that thing. Rooftop and complain about how she is more, based on historical data, she is more believable than you ever can be. Because Karabo is not the type of person to just drop out of school, drop out of work, not pitch for work, not pitch for school, not pitch for, like, she's never been the type of person to not pitch. So Jaka Houtley more she just threw her life away. That's obviously nonsense. And my uncle told me in my face that when I get Abishiwatseba, this is nonsense and he is going to intervene appropriately. But the mom just convinced him to ignore me and my case altogether in favor of his daughter. And now today they're looking like a nefarious family. Now today they look like the Addams family on steroids. Now today they look like Baloile everything. My older sister, oh, this chick came against me. My older, like Utli Linjafela against my whole mom's household. And the way everything is, my uncle is now, you see, that's the thing about these people who allow themselves to just run with ill-gotten gain. Whether or not in and of themselves they're practicing is like an accessory to murder. He did not expect that he would be guilty. He did not expect that upon him giving himself a false reputation of being the dad of a successful daughter, upon giving himself the false reputation of Hudisa Hantle. My uncle, like I said, I can't blame my uncle for failing my cousin. I can't. Because D-Thang has always been a loose screw. It's that basic. Khana Motho that could hold that chick down. She was uncontrollable. She lacked inhibitions, only loose all over the show. Despite the level of discipline that my uncle was trying to instill, Kochai, Khalenje fela, ile loskop, cousin yak. So Nkasima accuse of basically failing his kids. I can accuse my dad of failing his kids because he was a derelict, a drunkard, and a deadbeat dad, an absent husband. Yeah, my dad was all different kinds of things. So if I turned out like a menace and a mess, everybody can be like, daughter, of course you failed your children. Yeah, very well. My mom also kind of negligent, absent-minded throughout my teens. I could have bumped my head and gotten a concussion and she wouldn't have noticed until I woke up out of it myself. That was my mom, full of neglect and abandonment. So if I turned out horribly, some people might be like she was neglectful. Pay attention. Mara, my cousin never had any such issue growing up. No such issue. Manje, when you're dealing with that kind of a derelict, in the climate of someone that was obviously responsible in spite of irresponsible parents, how in the world under heaven are you going to convince a planet full of people that Karabo just threw herself away in favor of somebody that nobody had any hope for in the future? It's like she was finished off. Nobody was expecting anything different to come out of that chick. So when she suddenly started to fly like a phoenix, rise like a phoenix, at the strangely same time that Karabo is crashing and burning, that reeked of witchcraft in a country where witchcraft is running rampant through these streets, doing the rounds. South Africa. It gets covered in the news as like a whole special on Ugutwala. South Africans are aware that witchcraft is a thing. They're not still thinking it's a myth. Do you understand? They know. The thing is, if at all this chick would have been stoned to death or necklaced by angry villagers and burnt. If had happened where witchcraft is so obvious, Mahayeng is the plazis, is the country, it's like rural areas, villages, instead of urban suburbia. If what happened to me had happened in the rural areas, with this level of obviousness of witchcraft operating, the whole of my uncle's household may shiswa. I am telling you right now. Hi banne ba lokodi plazing tsa Rustenburg nka ba khale ba shisa indlu ya teng. Ngabe kudala ba shisa indlu yabo. Ngabe kudala this chick ba mulata and dragged her behind a car. Kamulala, strangling her to death. Because people in the villages don't suffer witches to live. People in the rural areas do not suffer witches to live because they make the lives of people such a living nightmare that as soon as you get busted doing these things, people literally apprehend you themselves vigilantically. But in suburbia, everybody's out there doing it. In suburbia, one community gets away with it. And so for those reasons, and again, in suburbia, people are kiss behinds of people who make money through Uktwala just because they can like flash imali and just because they can flash imoto and cars. You then get respected by mere virtue of having wealth and opulence. But when people are living in so much poverty that people or go extreme in the midst of existing poverty, there goes the power. When in the midst of existing poverty in the rural areas, you must comprehend with every bone in your body that that the villagers would ultimately strike her down. That's what happens when angry villagers happen upon a witch in a country where everybody knows witchcraft is a thing. So my cousin is only getting away with murder because literally more ditrateng tsa Johannesburg Josi Maboneng. And so wonke umuntu underestimate isosari. Everybody, like how when you say ngiloyiwe, when you raise ubutakathi in suburbia, people are inclined to ignore you because that's stuff for the rural areas or whatever. Because family never survived. It never would have survived. I can't continue to speak because my phone is going to ultimately die and I'm going to be very frustrated. So I guess I'm going to have to continue with this message, Kausan. I wanted to rush through this message before the electricity died. But like, I can't. I'll just, I don't know. Like, there is no power coming back. This is South Africa. We're gonna, goodness gracious, like, what time am I even gonna sleep? Yeah. I'll carry on from where I left off first thing in the morning tomorrow. Just finish this message. Yeah, well, as soon as the sun rises and the solar charges the unit out there, I'll be here. We're supposed to have power perpetually lingering, but there hasn't been electricity for 12 hours all day long, and it is this thing that charges what do you call it? It charges the unit, the electricity unit. It charges yona type thing. Got electricity. So if there hasn't been electricity for too long, even we lose power. Not only that, there's like some timer on the geyser that works usually only with Eskom power that we forgot to switch off all day long for these 12 hours. And so now that the sun has set, we don't have electricity and we have to be endured through the tyranny of whatever South Africans go through. But I guess let me not complain too much because we don't really have this as a problem. Just generally, like just period. It's a once-off thing with us, so it is what it is. I'll have to finish this message, Kausan. Maybe my heart will be a lot less feisty tomorrow. I don't know. The bottom line is, you're very extremely naive to think in a way as a means of patching up. You're not gonna throw me to indo. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because now you're guilty. Now you're guilty about the way my life turned out. Let the angry villagers with their pitchforks rock up and poke away at you. If you don't want to come out. When judgment falls, when judgment reigns, take it in your stride, Baloyi. You cannot expect that you will rise above people who are obviously above reproach. People who are obviously better and bigger than you. And not have all of society smell what stank in the room for what it is. It's naive. Hey, how's it? It is 52 minutes after midnight. That's when the power came back. There was cable theft apparently, and it's just been a little bit of a rough ride, but we're here. So I just want to finish doing my edits. I thought to just finish sleeping. I was sleeping. Yeah, but like I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this message because today is a day and then tomorrow's another day altogether. And my moods change. The climate in my heart is altered. It is adjusted overnight because of my nightmares, my dreams, my prophecies, what I get given. So I figured that since I'm yet to completely disappear into dream space mode, let me just, chat. As you can tell, I've showered and everything, changed the top. I even took out the plastic bag that was underneath here. As you can hear, there's no longer a khasha, but I'm still wearing the dug. Why is this thing not doing what I wanted to do? Oh, come. I don't have time for this. I do not. I absolutely do not have time for all of this. I just don't. Anyway, yeah, so I made a decision. Let me just finish this message because I wasn't really towards the end. I was, however, more than halfway through, and in fact, maybe I am towards the end. I don't imagine I'm going to be rapping on all the way up until the sun rises yet again. But, let's just get right back into it. I have somewhat simmered down. I've calmed down. I am mad. I'm livid. I'm angry. Guys, my temperature is through the clouds. Never mind roof. And that's only because of the nagging persistence of darkened souls to force their agenda on people that they might get away with murder. So perhaps on the day when I am reprieved of their incendiary activity, I might be a little less feisty, a little less energy fueled, a little less intense in the way that I regard them, in the way that I speak about them. But right now I am in the center of Merciless Boulevard. There is absolutely no mercy around my life. And absent of mercy, frankly, for what must I be gentle? For who must I be careful or tactful, for that matter, with my words? To whom am I awarding decorum? Because these men and women are violent. The Bible makes it clear that the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. The book of Ecclesiastes says that there is a time for everything. There's a time for peace and a time for war. And this is war. And when you are at war, there is frankly absolutely no time for decorum. There's no room for it. There is no appetite for it either. Okay? If you're going to be acting decorous towards beastly men in the midst of their beasthood, you are going to get devoured. There is no negotiating with a rabid animal that is bashing its chest on a mountaintop like it's King Kong because it anticipates that absent of being so violent that it will get cooed. So when something feels threatened about being cooed while being an animal, and you're a human being threatened of also being cooed, are you going to wear decorum? Are you going to try and talk an animal down that does not want to be exposed as an animal? No. Labantu laba, they want to get away with murder. Do you understand? They desire that they should essentially incarcerate, like, how can I describe this? It's like literally crying over spilt milk. It's like attempting to patchwork something that cannot be patchworked. What needs to happen here is just a confession of what you've done. That things might return to any kind of a semblance of a normal life. Any. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be basically pristine. A person doesn't even have to be recovered back to what it is that they lost. Just, however, respected enough. Do you understand? To not be patronized with patchwork. Respected enough to not be patronized with patchwork. And I am being patronized at present with patchwork. I'm being patronized with patchwork. People trying to pretend this whole thing never happened. And I don't know how many times I can rap on about how I feel with about gaslighters. Like people who realize that they messed up, wish they hadn't done it, wish that, like R. Kelly, they could turn back the hands of time, realize that they can't do that. And so upon discovering that it is impossible to turn back the hands of time, then try to patchwork the present, where it is that they still come out looking nice and pristine on the other side. They still come out looking all clean on the other side. And that's the thing that patronizes the living daylights out of me. That is the thing that I cannot stand. That is the thing that makes me basically maintain a war stance. Because these are people that a desire to get away with having done what it is that they did to people while giving them no justice, and so lingering them in lives of bitterness concerning the injustice. So at this point, seeing as there is no justice served, I will maintain a war stance. I will literally maintain a feisty, fiery stance where I am coming out with guns blazing because I am in a casket and people are trying to like literally knock holes into it, seal it shut, and they are saying that if you want to get out of this casket, just settle. Imagine that. Like people are literally over your casket with it having been lowered, so you're already kind of 6 feet under, but the grave is still open and they are busy pouring sand into it, and they're telling you that if you want us to stop putting sand into this thing and drop a harness into your casket, drop a rope that you might be hoisted up. If you want any kind of help to get out of this, you're gonna have to pretend we did not put you in a casket while you were alive. You're going to have to pretend that we did not literally bury you alive and try to act for years like that wasn't a thing. And if it was not for you being so noisome, if it was not for you being so incredibly loud from the grave, we would not have even come to try and dig you out, because it is embarrassing for us to have buried a living person. So we're only trying to bring you out, hoist you out of this deep pit that you've been put in only because you are a screamer. You are not a silent, dead, but alive person. You're not going down easy. And so we will let you live. However, you've got to pretend this did not happen. So Ndefela, just to gain some kind of a semblance of a normal life, Mina, I gotta go right ahead and live among, or pretend as if though those among whom I am living that did put me in a position to die did not just do that. I will go crazy, and I have spoken about this before. I have rapped on and on and on and on, and I will continue to rap on and on and on about this over and over and over again. I cannot, if at all, I am to be sustained in the future as any semblance of a human being, live without justice in the midst of people that are thoroughly trying to make me, given that in concert with each other, they have agreed that I should be silenced. Live among those people who will then make out of me look like some Dumbo because they've all agreed together that that's what I deserve to happen to me. I am embarrassing. That's the sad and disquieting thing about these people's lives. I am a sight for sore eyes. I am obviously a travesty. I am obviously a person that is being disregarded as entirely thriving, alive, and should have a life, but nonetheless does not have one. And so I'm embarrassing to my family. I'm embarrassing to my former friends, etc. And only because I'm embarrassing. That's frankly just it. Like, only because I am embarrassing, they're prepared to hoist me out of this. They're prepared to, hook up a little bit of a rescue effort to take me out of this, insofar as I pretend that this whole thing never happened. So long story short is, I am only being attempted to at rescue over the life of, only because I'm embarrassing. So can you imagine what under heaven would have happened if I was not embarrassing? In other words, if I was one of those silent dying people, if I was one of those randos that are out here unfortunately slapped by some stray, like, donkey in the street, and I just, like take it like a little wimp, like a little wuss. I just go and grab it like a little wuss, and I roll over like I'm a donut inside some peanuts, and then, just kind of live life looking like a freaking donut. Yeah, for the rest of my days. If at all I had done that, if I had rolled over and died, they would have felt no kind of way. They would have had no qualms with what they do, because that's exactly what these people do in the presence of their victims. Insofar as their victims are not glitching, twitching like victims, insofar as their victims are not screaming, shouting, flailing their hands in the sky, shouting rescue, insofar as their victims do not emit a victimhood, insofar as their victims are not oozing entirely, comprehensively, unfairly mistreated, they are going to carry on as normal in their midst. They want their bread buttered on both sides. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to pretend as if though nothing happened. And unfortunately, the majority of the victims of witches don't know they were bewitched. They don't know that their relatives put them in little ditches. They don't know that their best friends are monsters from the abyss. They have no clue that they are encircled by a bunch of egregious beasts with gratuitous violence against completely innocent people. They have no clue, but I do, because you just so happened to afflict with a great deal of violence somebody that God saw it fit to basically slap you right back with a spiritual gifting, a prophetic gifting, a very poignant one at that, where it is that Chiki's going to be Chiki's going to be getting told that you done did a thing, and the thing that you done did is nasty, and somebody got to talk about what you're doing, because if you don't stop, frankly, you are going to cause dominoes to tip in society until it is entirely apocalyptic. You're literally bringing about an entire end times event. It's an extinction level event, this witchcraft. I can't say it enough times. So somebody had to be a resisting force against it. Give the human race some kind of a chance, a shot at surviving whatever under heaven it is that witches do. Somebody had to be a voice of reason to award you the prospect of mercy should you decide to repent. And I'm that thing. I was the victim of witchcraft that saw what you did last summer. And so because I saw what you did, I am looking at you like Wangela to even dare, literally in all of that audacity, imagine that I'm eventually going to ultimately, thanks to your attrition against me, thanks to just the sheer pressure to settle, to give up, otherwise face death, based on all of that, you then anticipate that I'm just going to roll over and die, wag my tail in the presence of my enemies that are going to be giving me hand-me-downs after impoverishing me. For crying out loud, I need to go and pant and jeffel like a silly little dog that's happy to be adopted from a doggy shelter when I had my own home at some point, just thriving. We're not doing it. So all of this fever in me, where it is that I'm literally throwing my toys off the cot, it is only because I feel utterly and literally just like comprehensively patronized by the endeavors, the patchwork endeavors of everybody that is doing everything in their strange little ominous power. Do you understand? To ascertain that I don't complete my little mission of embarrassing them. It was never really my call of duty, if you want to call it that, to humiliate them. But then again, if you are out here walking the streets, you're gonna get humiliated when lights are just suddenly shone on your naked body when you're doing strange things in the night. I never intended to embarrass anybody, but it will be embarrassing when people ultimately get found wanting. You can't continue, in this abysmal fashion, and then expect that there is no opposing force that's going to ultimately one day shine a torch on the Bonalachah. So my uncle is yet another such human individual that has now, I spoke earlier about how it is that witchcraft begets witchcraft. He has graduated, do you understand, to a height of insanity where it is that in order to conceal the original sin, shall we call it that, he then is now actually committing brand spanking new sins. That's what's up. He has cast spells on me, and I don't know from which date. All I know is that the Lord, every time somebody conjures up a brand spanking new idea as to how to, cause me to be less humiliating. I get the dreams, I just don't know in what order, and I don't know when the spell was cast. I do not know when the witchcraft was done. All I know is that it was done, and I cannot be shown everything all in one failing swoop. Otherwise, I would not breathe, I would not live, I would be a zombie, I'd be catatonic, I'd be dragging my body through the mud. Like the donut that these witches are, I would be entirely getting dunked in some silly chocolate all day long, mired by it and unable therefore to survive. I would not be okay if I was shown everything in one sitting. It's like one dream at a time, or one batch of dreams at a time, one eventful night of a movie scene of people's insensitivity against the world at a time. I can't see it all. So I don't know when the sorcery of my uncle was embarked upon. I do know, however, that people tend to get motivated to do strange things where I am concerned, where my life is basically concerned. They are motivated to innovate anew, just like it is written in Romans 1, that these randos out here in these streets are constantly just innovating new ways to sin. Yeah, all I know is that people tend to go back to the drawing board and try a new thing against me every time they see me. So me being sighted is the issue here, but that's just the thing. You saw it fit as a collective to try and make me unsighted by making me unsightly. In other words, just menace me so much that I am not even worthy of being gazed upon. Fortunately, because I belong to a glorious God in heaven on high, he saw it fit to make me a very seemly being. He has given me glory, and so granted that the Lord has given me glory. Upon me now being a sight for sore eyes indeed, because of the travesty that is about my life, I am nonetheless a sight for sore eyes that is excruciatingly glorious, and the glory that I walk in is the very thing that causes people who wanted to make me unsightly just go back to the drawing board. You will recall on the day of the World Cup that South Africa won the rugby, that my uncle was here. So that's why I don't know when this spell was cast on me, but one of his boys, one of his friends that he came here to watch the rugby with, ultimately they left early because my mom was sick, but nonetheless they were here. One of his friends who did not know me, had never met me, I guess it was it was like a recent friend of the last few years, or one that had never met me. Somehow he missed my presence all throughout my upbringing, I don't know, but one of these boys, when I was busy helping them along with the television to try and tune into whatever channel they wanted to watch, went on right ahead to ask me if I'm in high school. He went on right ahead to ask me if I'm in high school. So essentially that was this man imagining me to be so young that I could be in high school. And well, it was quite embarrassing for my uncle and my aunt to listen to this man speaking, because, you know, I said, I laughed. I literally just bolstered out into laughter on some, no way, I'm not in school. And my aunt was all awkward, so too was my uncle, because they understood that they had left me to live like a child in my mother's house. But also, over and above having left me in this position, I also miraculously happened to be preserved. So I don't look a day over the age of, I would imagine, perhaps 25. But this guy like went on right ahead to just push that envelope to another extreme and said I look like a teenager, right? And I laughed at it, but my uncle and aunt were given comprehension from that question by that man that I am still glorious and I am still worthy of being taken up, that I have not like expired like bad milk. I have something of value in me. I am beautiful still. I have my youthful glory intact. They came to realize that I am miraculously, mysteriously preserved based on that question that friend of theirs asked. I quickly ran out of the house before the conversation could be completed, because I did not want to have to explain the situation that's going on in these streets. Yeah, but my uncle and my aunt then just rest with stuff like that. They sit with it, and not just my uncle and aunt, but people who have afflicted me as terribly as they do. When such things as those are thrown in their grill, in the midst of a person that is supposed to be, like I said, unsightly, they're supposed to be a grisly, affair to look at. I am supposed to be a menacing thing. I am supposed to be umfazi that is tutubanareng. I'm supposed to be getting shriveled up and creased. Yeah, that's what's good. Like clothing fresh out of the washing machine. As the years progress, the way that predictably a person that has been put in a lot of sorrow tends to shrivel up and crease really quickly thanks to cortisol, like stress hormones skyrocketing. But I have been miraculously preserved. I can't say that enough. I've been miraculously preserved despite the tension in my bones, despite the stress in my bones, despite everything. Everything of mine has been preserved. My hair is still fully black, not a single gray has popped out, and I personally physically look good. And yes, genetics have a lot to do with it, but genetics sometimes gets conquered and overwhelmed by stress in a person's life. So despite all of the stress, all of the sorrow, all of the heartbreak of all of these years of being in this terrible condition and possession, I have nonetheless been what is this? I'm preserved by God. And my uncle and my aunt, then not just my uncle, no, not my uncle and my aunt, my uncle then went home, I would imagine, from that date, and just kind of regressed to a drawing board, and then was like, at least she's still pretty. She still has youth. Even when she's pushing the envelope of 40. She's 39 like my daughter, and my daughter is like a whole mom now, and she has a kid. I believe one of her daughters, no, not even I believe, it's pretty accurate. Her oldest daughter is a teenager. Yeah. Her oldest daughter is a teenager. I believe her oldest daughter is could be 14 or 15, because if I think my ex-boyfriend and I broke up 12 years ago, and this chick already had a daughter something in the first year of my ex and I dating. The first year that my ex and I dated was when my cousin gave birth to a firstborn child, and my ex and I dated for 5 years. So regress back 5 years, and you have got 12, 13, 14, 15. We've got a 15-year-old. So my cousin is like a middle-aged woman with a teenage daughter. That's pretty much what I should be as well, the mom of a teenager. But people make sure that I don't get anywhere. So I mean, here it is that his daughter has got a teenage child. He is the grandfather of a teenage child, and I'm out here looking like a teenage child in my mother's household at the same age as his daughter. That's something that gave my uncle a little bit of a light bulb moment from the abyss, a nefarious idea that was conjured up in his silly members. And then he was like, you know what, since Karabo looks no different, or not too much different anyway, than my daughter's eldest my daughter's eldest kid, basically my eldest grandchild, since this kid, not eldest grandchild, he's got other grandchildren from another daughter, right? So this is not the oldest one. Is it? Yeah, no, it's not the oldest one. Is it? Did that chick have a baby before her older sister had her first child? I stand corrected. Those are logistics that I'm not even trying to figure out in my mind, because these people make sure I'm not in their lives enough to even know or remember their children's birthdays. So really, like, boo-hoo, take it. Okay, ang senadaba. Hai ke senadaba. Ke mo batho bang sutlisitse ka situation. And my uncle and aunt, well, let's just at this point speak of the uncle only, because that's the one that I dreamt about, is out here being like an Ahab. Remember I made the analogy with Ahab? It's not an analogy, it's more like a biblical example, because the devil is an ancient spirit that keeps on using the exact same strategies throughout history, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Humanity continues to perform the same stunts in Jafela over and over and over again, because they never study history, and so therefore they're doomed to repeat it. So Ahab is this guy that stole Naboth's vineyard, and it was at the instruction of his wife, and he felt somewhat, some kind of way about it. He was encouraged to do this diabolical thing as per the counsel of his diabolical wife, and he just ran with it like a namby-pamby rando that does not have his own mind to think. And then he was lambasted afterwards, after Naboth was killed, for the vineyard with guilt. He was then lambasted with a whole bunch of guilt, and upon walking in this extremity of guilt, was all sob-storying and was all mournful, and the Lord had mercy on him type establishment thing. Yeah, that was like, I believe, the only case of mercy given Ahab, because for the larger majority he was just a buffoon. Anyway, whatever. That whole Naboth vineyard story is exactly what's happening with my uncle right now. He is the husband of a Jezebel and the father of a Jezebel. He has got two evil women all up in his grill, and I also made mention prior to the power running out that men who marry bad women, you have no idea what under heaven a future of devastation you are putting yourselves in. The scriptures make it clear in Proverbs 7 that her feet go down to death, and nobody comes out of there alive. Like, a bad girl is basically the end of a man. A bad woman is the end of a man. However, a good one is like a crown of glory on the head of a man. And my aunt is not the best of women. She never has been the best of women. However, she managed to land a man that made her look good. Sometimes when you are not the best of females, a man can marry you and so make out of you a better thing, like an honest woman. Like he can convert you into something that is a lot more seemly, something that is a lot more, a better acceptable, if you know what I mean. I know of a couple from back in the day. My ex-boyfriend, it was one of his boys' girls, and this chick was essentially like a village bicycle, and she had been with quite a few even of his boys. She had been all over the show. The whole of the south of Johannesburg knew exactly what the nether regions of that chick looked like. And when he fell in love with her, his boys were like, dude, we thought that was hit it and quit it because she's a type of chick that people just hit it and quit it. Like, you gotta quit it. Like, you can't just carry on here. You were supposed to just hit it and quit it. Like, this is not base camp. This is not homeland. You don't stay here. You do what you do and you move on from this chick. His boys kept on trying to tell him, hit this and quit it, hit it and quit it. And this guy was like, but I'm in love. He was out here looking like a namby-pamby serious case of sorrow, saying to his boys that nyamtanda, like, what am I supposed to do? I've never felt this kind of love before. He went on right ahead to date her, and even with the stares of everybody whenever they would go everywhere together, after some time had progressed and now the relationship was maturing into 1 year and then 2 years and then 3 and then 4, all of a sudden, because now she was imedi long term, it's like the whole world forgot that this guy was with the village bicycle. The whole world completely forgave this girl because he made her honest. The whole world completely forgot about what this woman was, and he went on right ahead to also finish what he started with her and married her. So a man can convert a really bad girl into a respectable female in society, insofar as he takes her seriously. No matter how much people might speak down about this woman, insofar as this man sticks to his guns concerning her, do you understand? And that's exactly what happened with my uncle. He went and grabbed a bad girl, and this bad girl lingered around in my uncle's life long enough for everybody to forget that she was a bad girl. But I do remember a time when my mother told me that when my uncle brought my aunt home to the family, nobody liked her. Not my grandmother, not my mother, not my mother's sister. Nobody liked her because, first of all, apparently she was older than him, but by just a year, and that's not even like too much of an issue. It was just a year. But back in the day, that was like a whole big thing. That's why I will never be embraced by anybody's family with their little Oedipus. That's what's good. I don't want to have to deal with family that's gonna dislike me. Over and above this woman being older than him, she also apparently had a lot and was left to be desired by her, in the sense that my uncle was still some kind of an he was innocent and he was just whipped with a girl that was all over the show. It's like she's the one that taught him secrets of the body. She's the one that taught him everything, and when she came into his life, everybody was like, this chick is too fast for our brother. This uncle of mine was the youngest kid. He was the youngest kid, so it was like a whole overprotective issue by older sister, right? By older sisters of a chick that they knew that was more or less their age, that they had stories about, and my uncle was out just spazzing over her, and they were like, you, not this girl, somebody else, somewhere else, boy. Go and find somebody else to joll with. Go and find somebody else to do a thing or two with. Go and find somebody else to pull stunts with as a little boy. Go and find somebody else to experiment with. And my uncle was like, no, mina nyamtand. And after years have progressed, well, my uncle went 1 year with her, 2 years, 3 years, blah, etc. Then everybody just shut up already. They kept quiet because the man loved her. Everybody just embraced her. The grandmother, Wonkumuntu was like, I guess my son and my only son at that loves her, so I guess retlamo amochel. That's what's good. My uncle wasn't the best of men either, because he cheated on her and made a baby with some other woman before the two of them could ever have a child together. That's where my cousin's older half sister comes from. Yeah, but by then my uncle was so sprung and head over heels in love with this woman that when she tried to leave him, he went and pursued her back on some come back to my life, take me, wada, etc. So I guess they deserve each other. That's just the thing about two like not so great girls and not so great guys coming together. The Lord will tend to just keep them together, and in the future you will see the fruit of their nefarious union. None of them were good people. None of them were great guys and girls. None of them made any sense at all, so they were both given each other. And now this little Bonnie and Clyde pairing is what under heaven it is that it has produced in 2023. Children that were yet to be born were already massacred by Bonnie and Clyde's union from all the way back in the 60s or 70s or whenever was the little special thing where they were dalliancing with each other. Yeah, so because of the fact that Bonnie never really truly repented or became a better woman because of Clyde, and vice versa, now they're little miscreants, they're little bandits in the family. However, quite elderly bandits, so it's not even cute. It's at this point destroying an entire family. It is at this point desecrating my grandmother's legacy. It is at this point basically proof that the gut feeling that my mom, her sister, the mother, the pretty much whole family was right about Bonnie. A wicked woman is like rottenness in the bones of a man. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rottenness. Just utter rot. That is an immoral woman for you. Rottenness. And my uncle went on right ahead and grabbed himself a little Jezebelian lady, and upon grabbing the Jezebel, produced what under heaven it is that we're walking at in 2023. A couple that is out here disregarding a whole niece and a nephew because their own daughter just has to come first. Lanzele, a whole devil worshipper. That's what happens when you ignore warnings from your boys on the left and on the right of you, getting counsel concerning a woman. That's what happens when you ignore warnings from mother's instinct and whatnot concerning counsel over a woman. In the long run, it'll bear horrible fruit for you. The Bible says that at the counsel of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established. Do not take it lightly when your whole family does not like a girl. It's that basic. Do not take it lightly when all your boys don't like a girl. Do not take it lightly, because ultimately it is going to bear some pretty horrific fruit, and it might be in such a long term that you can't see the connection with the fact that from the very beginning the family didn't like this girl. It's that basic. Do not take it lightly. At the counsel of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established, and the fools despise wisdom. That's what it is that is also written in God's word. It is also written in God's word about the one who ignores wise counsel. My son, in the Proverbs. Yeah, it is written that this person will look back at his youth and cry and say, "Oh, how I hated counsel when I was in my youth." With bitterness of soul, bitterness of spirit, he will look back at his youth and say, "Oh, how I hated discipline. Oh, how I hated rebuke." That is what the foolishness of youth does to a man in the long run. You end up married to Jezebel, and then next thing she is out here convincing you to decimate Naboth's vineyard, to go on right ahead and kill an innocent man and take his vineyard. Anything at all to get ahead. An evil woman is a voice in the ear of a man that will be namby-pamby, wet behind the ears, and unable entirely to make a kingly decision on his own and tell his wife what he will or will not do in authority and honor, as he will stand rather with what God will do. A man can convert a woman into a godly woman or a better woman if he refuses to humor her evil. But if a man allows himself to be watered down by an evil woman, we've literally got Ahab and Jezebel right there. We're not dealing with a case of Hosea and Gomer. We are dealing with a case of Ahab and Jezebel, where the woman is running the show behind the scenes of a man that looks as if though he's a king, but really he's just a namby-pamby child who is still feeding at the breast of his wife, otherwise known as Jezebel. This aunt of mine is literally the reason why my uncle made a decision against even his own mother's instruction concerning the family. Prior to her passing away, he was given the baton to take care of the entire family, to be a mediator, given that he was a son. Interstate succession and testate succession favored him. He was awarded the patriarchy in the family. He essentially is the crown of the family. He is the chief of the family, and being a chief, you can't afford to be so incredibly unwise, especially if it will topple or decimate the whole family, especially when it is threatening to destroy the legacy of the one that brought the baton down to you. So he has utterly humiliated my grandmother's legacy, and in so doing, such a thing as that now today is trying to patchwork it, literally put it together as with sticky tape. He is trying to keep erect the family, but on his own terms, by burying, but not in a so buried state that it's clear that it's burial, a whole child. Ngwana wa bona o godileng o ileng, she went to school, a child among them that grew up, went to school like everybody, matriculated, went to varsity, got a job, basically did whatever it is that children do as they grow up, reached milestones, and then one day there was a whole chock-a-block, a bomb, a severance, some kind of a cessation of a child's life in the family. And this uncle saw it fit to, basically, stay his hand from mediating this time around, because his daughter was involved, while his daughter was also discovered as, therefore, at that very same season, as so diabolical that she made it utterly impossible for her own best friend in the family to get a job, the best friend of which is also another child of the family. He ignored a very devastating case, a really serious matter in dire need of intervention. He just slipped it under the carpet because he made an observation of his own sister's psychosis concerning that child and told himself that at least ngwanaka alright. But you see, whether or not my aunt and my uncle have been prepared to basically comfort my mom when I've passed away has become irrelevant. It has gotten to a point where now it's irrelevant because his guilt is appearing to have mushroomed beyond his settling, his compromise, his every man for himself stance, even though he was supposed to be the patriarchy over us all. He was our chief. Imagine a king in a country, a president, saying it's every man for himself. By mere virtue of being given that position, oh president, you cannot be selfish. You have to regard your countrymen every single day. You gotta put them above your own needs. You on that day are a servant leader. The moment you accept position as leader above any ecosystem, you must forget about yourself. Otherwise, on